Okay, I'm going to be working on doing this is my reflective summary, which stands behind my beliefs, my understanding, and my attitudes towards teaching mathematics and why I would make certain decisions based on the past 8 or 9 weeks in this course rather. So I guess what I'd like to start with is one of the prompts we have here is explain how your experiences influence your beliefs in the nature of mathematics. So I think I did a really good job of outlining that throughout my math history in part one. We talked about thinking back to a time when you were successful, measuring, and then a turning point in my life being when I bought my first home and realizing the importance of a lot of bigger things, all relevant to math in some crazy way. So it was really interesting how in my math history, initially I started with talking about not understanding fractions, and it became amazing that not only did I focus my modules on it, but a lot of our in-class over weeks 4, 5, 6 were spent on fractions. So that was awesome. I really, really enjoyed that. I really do think that my feelings towards math, they've drastically changed over the course of this semester in particular. It's been a long time since I had a math course. Grade 10, grade 11, I think was my last math course, and it was one of the worst grades I ever received in high school. I was never strong for math, and I went into communication arts, public relations at Durham College because it had no math in the program. It was one of the big draws for me. So I talk about that a lot in my math history. I'm not going to get into that, but basically, I'd just like to say that I find that the people around me, a lot of the uncertainty with math, I felt like that was wearing off as the course led on. I felt like a lot of us were kind of letting loose. We were understanding that we're all not math experts, that we need to learn from each other. And the same goes for taking that approach into the classroom. And I stand behind a really strong inquiry-based learning approach or problem-based learning approach, especially with my students. And it's something that I hope to promote a great deal moving forward with math teaching. So I'd say that since developing my math history, I've come a long way with regards to my math anxiety in particular, in general becoming more comfortable with teaching math lessons. The more we discuss differentiated instruction in multiple ways and outlining ways that problems can be deconstructed, I found it extremely important, and I started to see more and more relevance into fighting the traditional norms and the traditional style of teaching. So I realized fairly quickly that, in essence, I was not very motivated or engaged as a student with regards to the subject of math, and because of that, I wasn't very stimulated. I didn't see the real-world relevance and connections, and I realized that that's a big key to it. And even when we started to try and dive into problems more deeply, or we started to create word problems upon weeks 8 and 9, 7, 8, 9 in this course, I found it really funny that we were all kind of going back to those same food measurement equations or distance. So kind of the typical things we grew up with school. So it's something I'm going to try really hard to do, is try to create word problems and try to create lessons that are extremely engaging, but that still have the core concepts, but maybe try and find relevance in it, especially with kids in sports and local teams, and just trying to pull more students in with things that they enjoy. So for instance, right now I'm creating a science direction for the next 6 weeks of practicum, and I've taken on mechanisms and structures, and I'm doing the flight curriculum, piece of the flight curriculum. And I've created this awesome math problem about how you have a hot air balloon, and it can only travel so much speed based on the speed of the wind, and they want to go see the Toronto Blue Jays at the Rogers Centre. So, how long is it going to take them to get there? And obviously, we're not using, I forget the term that we use, but basically, they don't have to stick to the roads, obviously, because it's more like a direct flight because they hot air. So I've created these cool word problems and created basically a station around going to the big game, and then how you travel from Toronto to Ottawa to go see how the Blue Jays want to go see the Ottawa Senators. And then the Toronto Blue Jays and the Ottawa Senators want to go see the New York Yankees in New York, and the wood spane's drastically changed. So just fun things that I know is going to captivate them based on my interactions with the kids. So I want to be able to inspire my students to explore math problems in more than one way. It's one thing that I've taken away a lot from this course. Read a problem and deconstruct it, of course, and basically take that extra step in taking a minute to maybe say it back to yourself a few times, write it out a few times, grab some objects to try to make sense of actually, what is it telling me? Because once you visualize things and we started to use manipulatives more in class, I feel like I started to get more and more about the relevance of why we have all these differentiated instructions. Especially in the first few weeks, I was very daunting and very tiring with it, but I get it big time, and I started to really embrace it nearing the end. So with so many different alternative methods to math, and with all the manipulative supports, especially with all the digital tools and websites that we can use to use digital manipulatives, we should really be trying to captivate our students with those tools and basically show them math concepts in a multitude of ways, which is something I think we did really well in this course, especially with the play technology today, and seeing how technology can be integrated into math and bringing up students to take on that student-centered learning approach where they're up at the board telling why and how that makes sense. And I found it really interesting that we all came up with different concepts, and even you, Anne, were taken back at times because there's something that you saw that you're like, oh, I didn't think that was going to happen, or it's amazing that we can all still learn from each other, and even with your level of expertise, you were still really enjoying the conversations and the concepts that we were coming up with. Not always, but sometimes. So I'll leave it at that. But basically what I wanted to say real quickly is, like, you can see that in the beginning you asked us prior to your course starting, you said make sure you bring no laptops, or it's not going to be necessary to have your laptops out. Make sure you come with pencil and paper. So I went and I got a scrapbook. Not really thinking. That's what I showed up with week 1 and week 2. I showed up with this scrapbook, and it was very, 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 very messy in a lot of ways, unfortunately, right? So, and again, I've been out of math for a long time, probably 15 years, a lot longer than a lot of these people in this program. So, this is how it turned out by week 8, by week 9. Eventually I went out and got, a classic exercise book, which I grew up on, and all of a sudden things started clicking. I had lines to write on, and I was able to start seeing the big picture. This is what I would expect to be handed in as far as an end product, and even though mine aren't perfect, I have a lot to kind of just go back on and realize that, especially from a teacher perspective now, what are you hoping your students to deliver, and what are you hoping for them to get out of your lessons? So I'm going to try really hard to basically promote that as a teacher. Not fun and engaging lessons, but I hope to have fun, and I hope to have all my lessons to be extremely engaging, but I basically just want them to be able to understand things and conceptualize things with real world relevance. And that's when I truly think you get that deeper thinking. It really sinks in because you're able to make that connection in conversation. You're able to compare it. I don't know what it is, but it's something in the memory where when you can relate to things in a multitude of ways, basically it's locked in. It becomes more foundational. So I'll leave it at that, and I hope that this works as far as a submission for my reflection. I plan to do this for both of my reflections over the next week. So I really enjoyed this course, and I got a lot out of it, and I think the math history was a really good way to start everything and just get it all out of us. And then it was a really nice way to see how we kind of all came back to that. My confidence with teaching has gone up a ton. I did a lot in my first practicum prior to having this course, but I was, even with doing penny, nickel, dime, quarter, and getting concepts up to the value of 25 cents, and then using the different manipulatives to construct 25 cents in multiple ways. It was daunting because, you don't want to say the wrong things, and you definitely don't want to misguide students or use the wrong terms. So going forward, I really think that this course should be a foundation to fall and maybe align it perfectly with STEM. Like, we should be in STEM part 1, and we should be thinking and doing. So, we should really be on that. If anything, we should have a second part to this course. I would greatly benefit from it, and I know others would too. Excuse me. And explain how your experiences influenced you as a math teacher. Everything. My life around me now with the kids and seeing what they're coming home with for work, and where I need to be as far as my level of knowledge, especially now as an aspiring teacher. There's a lot, and I feel like I need another course, or I need that next level, and I very well might be doing that if I feel less and less confident, especially getting my additional qualifications. I would love to teach up to grade 12, or at least up to grade 10 and get my intermediate. And I would like to know more, and I'd like to feel better. I feel good. I'm confident, but I would like to be stronger in a lot of different ways, so in particular math. So thanks, Anne, and have a great summer, and I look forward to touching base throughout it. Thank you very much.